Whew. Whew. Haven't used this one in a while. Boy, those boom tubes, they get harder every year. Ugh. Welcome, once again, to that secret, undisclosed location hidden somewhere deep in the bowels of downtown St. John's, Newfoundland. Comes to you a special Thanksgiving edition of In the Library of Graphic Literature. And it's only myself here today. So I'm going to get right to it because I have to go teach a class in comics right after this. Anyway, I only got a couple of new books, so I'm going to leave them for next week. So I thought, okay, what are 10 books, and these are in no particular order, by the way. Well, I guess I got them in a bit of an order now that I look at it. Of some of my, the comics that I'm most thankful for. How's that sound? Okay. These are 10 of the comics that I'm most thankful for. I guess I did have them in a bit of an order, but let's start here. Okay. Well, a huge pile of books. I hope it doesn't tip over during the show there. The first one, of course, is Mouse. Thankful for this because this is a book that really showed me how comics could be used for, for history, for teaching history, for teaching, especially about something like about World War II, about the Holocaust. It's a lesson. When I was in my 20s, of course, having grown up with it and all that, I've read a lot of Holocaust literature and all that, and came across Mouse, which originally was sort of condemned by some people, but then they realized this is actually, one of the most beautiful pieces of Holocaust literature, as I call it, to exist. It really does tell the story of Spiegelman's father as they end up in the death camps in Nazi Germany. But not only that, there's what leads up to it. This is what I like too. You get to see, because I mean, Hitler just didn't appear overnight. I mean, they seen him coming and all that. And this just goes to show you the atmosphere of social intolerance and that towards people. And this showed me that comics could be a way to fight against that. Okay. Now, on to number two. Oh, here we go. Number 2 is The Tomb of Dracula. I mean, number 9. Sorry, I'm going backwards here. Tomb of Dracula, because in the 70s it was a comic that, as I was reading, it was just like, wow, this comic is actually more interesting than any, and better made than any Dracula movie. I mean, I know the book is a work of genius and all that, but in some ways I kind of like Tomb of Dracula even better than the original Dracula. Well, I mean, it had a lot more time to hang on a second, let me make sure I can get this in here, to develop the characters in a single novel. And but the thing I like best about this, and I'm most thankful for, is that it was a grand stage for Gene Colan to work his special magic. Marv Wolfman, of course, too, as a writer, but as the artist, I mean, to me, when I was reading this as a young artist myself, it was just like, wow. Like he used to do great scenes for Dracula, as Dracula would transform into a bat, right? It was always something very metamorphic and natural, and I mean, to me, no one does. No, it's hard for me to see anyone who does Dracula as good. Although, who was it? Someone did a Dracula actually that was pretty good. Maybe it was Steve Laola. I think it was, yeah. So yeah, there have been very few, I think, Dracula stories outside of Tomb of Dracula that I've ever really loved. I mean, it had mood. I mean, look at this. Look at this page. Look at it. Are you looking at it? Just look at it. My God. Isn't that mood to be thankful for? Anyway, continue along. Next one is Kill Raven. I'm thankful for this because it showed me how an artist can progress over a period of time. I mean, I always did like P. Craig Russell's art from earlier things, but when he first appeared on this, it was just like, oh my God! I remember him from earlier stories that he'd done. I think there was an Ant-Man, or anyway, I seen him around anyway. And when it became known to me that he was suddenly on this strip, not only that, I mean, I'm perusing the shelves myself as a kid, and I come across, I mean, stuff like this. I mean, look at that. Huh. No damn AI can draw, or plagiarism software can draw like this, can they? Great story. You know, it's basically about Killraven and his friends who are fighting off the invaders from Mars. And Killraven himself is a cool character. I always liked him. There was something about him, but I think, and there's actually one Gene Colan does earlier that's really good too. One issue. I mean, it starts with Chaykin and Adams, sure. So it to me, it was definitely one of my favorite strips just from the art alone, and the story. The stories were great. Don McGregor is up there as one of my favorite Marvel writers of that era, with Gerber and Engelhardt, say, for instance. These guys were doing, for me, the best comics in the land. And like I say, I like the way that Russell really made this visually his baby too. So it's a great example of how. Well, and there's even a Giffen fill-in issue. This series, and the graphic novel, was gorgeous. Shows I'm thankful for the way these two were able to get it together and do such a great comic. I guess it's about the best way to put it. Let's see. Oh, next one was Deathlock The Demolisher. Mainly because this was, I think, quite possibly like the first comic that, because I bought a few, I was starting to buy a few Marvel. I was mainly a DC guy growing up, and so I picked up a few here and there, but I can still remember when I seen this on the stand. It was one of the first that I just like reached out and grabbed it. It was like, oh, gotta have this, and it's it was amazing. Deathlock The Demolisher. I gotta say that for the 70s, for you 70s sci-fi fans and all that. No, I mean there's obviously it's a homage to the $6 Million Man, but just God, this is what happens when the $6 Million Man goes terribly awry, and he's used as, well, in this case he's sort of an assassin, right? But I mean the artwork, Buckler's artwork is amazing. I do believe Munch, was it Doug Munch? I think was started off with him. What was it? Yes, scripted by Doug Munch, but conceived, plotted, and drawn by Rich Buckler, who to me was right up there with Starlin in terms of artists that I was actually a big fan of. Especially the last couple of issues, and this one in particular. This was one of my favorite comics. Buckler, I think, was at his best when he had a good inker, and in this one he had Klaus Janson, who does just an amazing job throughout this, and then the following stories, stuff like that. but to me, his issues were the ones I liked the best that he inked himself. Anyway, so grateful for Deathlock. Another one was The Airtight Garage of Jerry Cornelius. This is a French edition, Major Fatale. This book in particular, because I bought this in New York in the 80s, and I mean, I'd seen it in the comics, but it was kind of neat to have a collection of it to me. And even though it's in French, I didn't care because, number one, I'd read the comic. So it was a very, very, very nicely printed edition. So this one I'm thankful for too, because it has a few memories attached to it. Right? Let's see how many left we got into. So we have 5 left. Okay. Next up is, and I'm holding both these up together, is basically Love and Rockets. So in terms of book form, Locust and Palomar. Oh, they're heavy. Palomar for the genius. I'm thankful for the genius that is Gilbert Hernandez, who I consider possibly one of the greatest writers in comics today. And Palomar, it's strange, it's erotic, it's everything a great comic or a great story should be. And his brother, of course, Jaime, is doing some great stuff in Hoppers. But yeah, his story following Maggie and Hopi as they grow, and oh, it's just, I mean, the Love and Rockets was, you know, what I grew up with in the 80s, in my 20s. To me, it was the coolest comic out there, and in some ways it's still the coolest comic out there to this day. Yeah, so that's one. Okay. Another one that I'm thankful for, of course, is Green Lantern, Green Arrow. I'm thankful for this because growing up, when I really started to get into comics, there were certain artists that I went, like we all do, I went gaga over. And one of the ones for me was Neil Adams. I loved his realistic drawing. Now, today with a lot of people drawing realistically and all that, it's maybe not as revolutionary as he was back then. But I mean, he did great realistic comics. I mean, and he could keep up with the schedule too. But this series, of course, famous for so many reasons and so many awards. It's like Green Lantern, Green Arrow do the trip across America to find the soul America type of thing, you know, the Easy Rider type of thing, done comic book style. And I mean, each issue, like this one's obviously about the Manson family. Each issue, there's other ones that are about native rights. Let's see, overpopulation, women's rights there again. Sort of a horror one. This one, the Kaluga one. Oh yeah, this is a comment on the plastic society we all thought we were living in or going to, and we did. But the whole thing, amazing series. The artwork was amazing. The comics, they were educational without being preachy, and that's the thing. I say to a lot of people, if you're going to get your message across, don't make it overbearing. It's far better to be able to subtly slip in stuff and let it ruminate in their minds and let them think and come to their own conclusion, and it's much more powerful that way. Which is why I'm thankful for V for Vendetta. Governments should be afraid of their people. Now, a lot of people, of course, will say, Wallace, how come you're not talking about Watchmen or his Swamp Thing or whatever? But this actually is quite possibly my favorite work by Alan Moore. I mean, I love all his stuff, right up to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and that. But this, in terms of his early stuff, it's I thought at the time it was a masterpiece, and still to this day I do. And it was actually about the only movie that it was the only decent movie that was made from Alan Moore's comics. I loved the movie. So, but yeah, but an amazing comic. A lot of people didn't like the way it ended, but to me, couldn't have ended any better. Ooh, oh, I just dropped the little thing. The little card that came in the back of it. I always keep these. Not because I'm going to sell them on, but I don't know. I don't know why I keep those, not that I think about it, but yeah, keeps it. Now this, of course, is the Absolute Edition, which is, of course, absolutely beautiful. I always did love this. Look at that. Amazing. Okay, and I think we're down to two now. Two. That's it. Let's see, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yes. So, my number 2 is Conan the Barbarian, which I'm thankful for because it introduced me to Barry Windsor Smith and art in general. It really, when I read how he was talking about the pre-Raphaelites, and I sort of studied them, and began to actually study other art forms from there into, art movements and all that. So it was it was a fun comic because it was great adventure comics, sword and sorcery, which at the time was fairly new for us comic book readers. We were used to fantasy, but this was sort of a different type of fantasy. When I like Conan. Even as a kid, I bought the. Now, by the time I started buying it, Buscema was doing it. But once I found out about Barry Smith, I bought all the way back and I had all the issues. I had all the issues that he did. Great thing about this book too, in terms of the collection of it, I actually use it in some of my classes when I teach art, because I point out to people the difference that a couple of years of hard work can make. And what I do is I point out the cover of issue number 24. Look how beautiful that is. And then I show them issue number 1, which it's still Smith, and it's a serviceable enough drawing at the time, right? But it's still nothing compared to this beautiful mayhem there. And his art, this I think the Song of Red Sonja has to be one of the most beautifully drawn stories in comics still to this day, right? Although Monster was pretty close. And like I say, I like Buscema and a lot of the other artists, but to me, Conan will always be Barry Windsor Smith. Thank you, Barry. And of course, Barry being interested in him got me interested in Wrightson and Kaluta and Jeff Jones, and it just went insane from there. Now, last but not least, the comic series actually that I'm most grateful for, the comic, I guess, and you all probably know this already. It's The Fourth World. Boo, 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 boo. Mainly because I always loved the vision that was behind the entire project. I always loved this cover in particular. I can remember just sitting staring at this cover when I had this comic. I bought it for like $4 or $5 in the 70s. I bought back and I found all the Fourth World issues. Eventually I did have a complete collection. It was kind of a fun hunt, but I had some of them when I was much younger, when they first came out. Like, I did have the first issue of Mr. Miracle, but I'd lost it. But then when I got seriously into it, I went back and I found a copy and bought it. And that copy was in perfect condition. But at Dark Side, what a villain, right? And everything coming from that, the New Gods, the Forever People, the the Jimmy Olsen, which is in fact by far the best written Jimmy Olsen you will ever come across, and best drawn. It's he really takes he takes Jimmy to bold new heights, and I loved it. But the whole thing, the Orion, I loved him in New Gods. Mr. Miracle too. I can remember buying that off the stand at the time, and even though I was just starting to come around to Kirby and understanding Kirby, I still bought it. And even though I know, oh, it's this Kirby, this guy who's really blocky and all that, but I was reading, it was like, geez, this is kind of interesting. This is cool, and I bought them, and then eventually, like I say, when I got back into when I got into collecting seriously, I went back and I got them all. I ended up actually selling them to a friend of mine who runs a comic book store here, and he sold the entire set actually to one person who I also happen to know. So it ended up in a good home, and I have that version, and of course my more favorite version, the absolute editions of the Fourth World, have to be the absolute edition for the Fourth World. As I've said many times, format fit for a king. That being said, I do have to tunnel off now to teach my class, but that is basically 10 comics. Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of other honorable mentions. I had the X-Men by Neil Adams, and I had Jim Starlin, Dreadstar, and Commanding, and Daredevil. Those are the honorable mentions in this list anyway. That being said, thanks for having me over. I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving up here in Canada comes a lot earlier, but you know, I get it. I lived in the States for a few years. I'll never forget one time when I was living in New York, my friend and I, we were at the local deli, and we were at the local diner, and we were having breakfast on Thanksgiving morning, and we were finished our dinner, and we were counting up our change, make sure we had enough to pay for our meal, which we did and all that. But by the time we got to the counter, the cashier there said, oh, don't worry about it, the guy who left there 5 minutes ago, he paid for your meal, right? Couldn't believe it, right? So yeah, so there are nice people out there. Anyway, that's 10 comics plus a bit that I am thankful for. That being said, I'm going to go and spread the gospel of the word of comics. Have a great evening and a great holiday, and we'll see you next week. And Luna will be with me then. And it'll be more fun. Kind of weird just talking to the camera by myself. Anyway, that being said, where is my... Oh, there it is. Okay, thanks for having me over. Bye.